Hello, everybody. All right, so with Hump Day, Wednesday, August the 23rd, 2023, I do realize that the Republican primary presidential debate's going on tonight. You have Trump being interviewed by Tucker on what I guess they're calling X now, which was formerly Twitter, I guess. I know people's attention. I hope we still get some people in here, of course. Um, if you don't feel like, if you don't really feel like sitting there and watching, a bunch of people try to tell you why you shouldn't vote for Trump, or even if you don't feel like listening to Trump per se at this point, I know there are people out there, you know, then you can come here for a bit of a respite for our nightly look at the world of niche in terms of anime, cartoons, comics, manga, pro wrestling. Of course, with that, as we wait for more people to show up, I'm going to go ahead and go off camera for a moment, take care of a couple of things, and then when I come back, we'll talk about what's on tap, and then get right into it. So we'll just go ahead and do this. Put some music on for you guys, and I'll be right back. All right, so let me just take care of Let me just take care of a couple more little things here real quick, and then we'll go over what's on tap for tonight and get right into it. All right, so there we go with that. Let's do one more go around here. Wait, what's going on here? Oh, wait, what was that? Oh, wow. Wow. All right, let's see. Yeah, okay. That's news. We'll probably be covering that a bit today. All right. So, anyways, and I thank you for the like and the share. I just saw something in the headlines there as I was taking care of something there. And we'll probably open up with that before we even get into the articles because some news came out today in regards to Terry Funk apparently. So I will probably talk about this more tomorrow when I have a little more information. But I just saw a headline, and I guess we'll just have to wait to see what reports come out on it. So, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Terry Funk passed away today at the age of 79. Um, there are no further details than that. I just saw the headline just now. I think Mick Foley and Ric Flair have already kind of come out and have given their tributes. We'll probably, once we have more details, we'll get into that tomorrow. But apparently Terry Funk has passed away at the age of 79 today. So he's a former NWA and ECW World Heavyweight Champion. So with that, on to some. I guess we'll do a quick moment of silence for Terry, then we'll move on. All right. I hope to have more details tomorrow on that. So, anyways, so here's what's also on tap for tonight. As we will be going over 3 articles tonight. We'll get right into them in a moment here. Disney officially shutters Lucasfilm Animation Studio in Singapore. Also, Jim Lee believes the addition of James Gunn and Peter Safran as heads of DC Studios will renew interest in comic brand. And Dark Horse writer Christoph Bogax, I guess, basically believes that you can't have a career in mainstream comics and be a part of Comicsgate. So with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get into the news here? And of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up as well as this day in each history towards the end of the show. So with that, let's go ahead and get going here. So the first article we're going to look at here, I guess you see some of the animation from Hoska there. All right, so let's get into this. Disney officially shutters Lucasfilm Animation Singapore. Claims decision was made in response, quote, to economic factors affecting the industry, unquote. I'm guessing those economic factors may be in part the WGA strike going on right now, the Writers Guild of America strike going on. So, article by Spencer McCooley, and this was published a little over a week ago, last Tuesday on the 15th. So, yes, and we're still working our way, trying to get caught up on stuff. So, anyway, in a further blow to Disney's already shaky operating health, Lucasfilm's Industrial Light and Magic has announced that, quote, due to economic factors affecting the industry, unquote, the company will be officially closing the doors on Lucasfilm Animation's Singapore branch. So basically, their studios in Singapore, they're basically closing down, or I guess for now, anyways. Coming 20 years after the branch was opened, this decision, so back in 2003, this decision was first confirmed on August 15th, courtesy of the House of Mouse themselves. In a statement sent to Variety on August 15th, a Disney spokesperson explained that, quote, over the next several months, ILM will be consolidating its global footprint and winding down its Singapore studio due to economic factors affecting the industry, unquote. Of course, and as always, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to do the best I can to answer those questions. So with all that being said, let's continue here. Given the massive blow, Lucasfilm Animation Singapore's closure, will deliver to the eponymous nation's economy, particularly as they work towards becoming a global entertainment production powerhouse themselves. The Singapore government was, unsurprisingly, disappointed in the move. So basically, I guess Lucasfilm was one of the big employers for Singapore. You take that out, and that is going to be a hit. When one of your biggest, employers for your country sits there and closes up shop, that is going to hit hard. In a joint statement, the government's Economic Development Board and Infocom Media Development Authority lamented how, quote, Lucasfilm's decision to wind down its Singapore operations is in response to changes in the industry and business conditions, unquote. Quote, the global media industry is facing disruption from rapid technological advancements. I think they're talking about AI there. While studios are coping with challenges relating to talent and profitability, talent being probably the as I said, the strikes going on right now, and profitability, the fact that their movies aren't making money because they're producing garbage. The two agencies explained. However, regardless of the unfortunate circumstances surrounding this economic setback, the government concluded their statement by praising how, quote, throughout Lucasfilm's tenure in Singapore, the company has developed world-class digital animation talent for the industry through knowledge and skills transfer, unquote. Quote, our Singaporean talent have worked alongside and learned from experienced producers, enabling them to develop their skills and play on the world stage, unquote. So theoretically, if they have the talent there, they could theoretically start doing their own stuff, and maybe I do know that Singapore is for the Southeast Asian English market. Singapore has been a dubbing hub for the Southeast Asian English speaking market for the past 30 years or so. So that much is true. The government bodies added, quote, we are proud that Singaporeans have worked on Hollywood blockbusters such as Jurassic World, Dominion, and Marvel's Eternals. Many have moved on to roles in media companies like Netflix or have gone on to start their own companies. In addition, Lucasfilm's leaders actively contributed to training generations of students in digital and tech skills at polytechnics and institutes of higher learning, unquote. Responding to the government's concerns and praise, ILM Singapore and Sydney boss Luke Hetherington issued his own statement wherein he asserted, quote, we would like to thank the Singapore government, industry, and community for their partnership over the past 17 years, unquote. Quote, we have been able to train and employ a generation of production talent, visual effects artists, and animators, unquote, he continued. Quote, we are very proud of the incredible work the team in Singapore has accomplished and look forward to providing new opportunities for Singapore talent to continue the innovative work they are doing, unquote. So, hopefully for Singapore's sake, they can get themselves going here. And as I said, of course, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Also, if you haven't already, then like and share the stream and see we can get some more friendly people. I know people are also going to be keeping an eye on the presidential debate on Fox and on Tucker and Trump on X now, or X as formerly known as Twitter. So so with that, as we continue here, let's see. In a particularly insulting detail, should be noted that the announcement of Lucasfilm Animation Singapore's closure was made on the same day as the 15th anniversary of their most famous work, the CG animated Star Wars The Clone Wars series. Ouch. Ouch. That's gotta hurt. Thus, rather than spending the day celebrating their work on one of the last good pieces of Star Wars media, the studio's over 300 employees are instead being forced to contend with the possibility of unemployment. However, per Variety, ILM will allegedly be providing employees ample notice regarding their employment status, as well as various opportunities to transfer to one of the company's respective studios in San Francisco, Vancouver, London, Sydney, or Mumbai. Alrighty then, so there we go with that one. We'll get ready to move on to the next story here as soon as we get down to it. Which will be the Jim Lee story that I mentioned earlier. What are you looking at? You were a sour girl the day that you left me. The day that you left me. Yeah. The one time I decide I do something for because somebody asked, we get behind like this. I mean, there's just a lot of news that's come out in the last few weeks here. A lot and all across the niche world. All right, so we go with the next article. As I said, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll do the best I can to answer the questions. All right, so here's the next article we're going to look at. DC president and publisher Jim Lee thinks addition of James Gunn and Peter Safran as heads of DC Studios will renew interest in comic brand. Article by J.B. Augustine, published 1 week ago, so we're at least back to within a week here. August 16th, Comic Books 2020. Anyways. All right, so let's see what this article is all about here. So DC showed up at San Diego Comic-Con for the first time in years last month, and Jim Lee, the president, publisher, and chief creative officer of the comics brand, was there to take in the proceedings. Quote unquote, tucked away in a second floor nook of the Dawn of DC booth, what he saw people buying collectibles gave him hope for the future of his company. Well, okay, and I know Yellow Flash has also talked about this. A lot of the money that DC and Marvel are making is not necessarily on the stuff that's currently being published, but on the reprints of older stuff. That's where a lot of their money is starting to come in from. Is more the older sales as opposed to the newer stuff. Lee granted access to The Hollywood Reporter and shared with them his optimism that comics will grow again and fans will return. Quote, Comic-Con is the event of the year for us. We wanted to basically show up for the fans, unquote, he said, looking past and not even acknowledging the alienation of, okay, looking past, and this is Spencer talking here, looking past and not even acknowledging the alienation of readers taking place over the past few years or more, based one in part to the content that they're publishing, and two, the attitudes that the writers and editors and staff are all taking towards the fans. Right? Anyways, continuing on here. All the DC film releases in 2023 turning it into duds is an illustrator of the fans' presence and voice. But Lee predicts that will turn around thanks to the new slate being dreamed up by the DC Studios regime of James Gunn and Peter Safran. Oh, if it's anything like the material they've been doing, I don't think so. We may no longer be seeing DC or Marvel if they're not careful. Moreover, Lee stated he already sees evidence of this changing tide, giving credit to Gunn specifically. Quote, it's amazing to have partners in Peter and James. Particularly James. He was a comics fan growing up and knows our mythology inside out. And having that kind of ally in the live action space allows us to really leverage what he is doing and allow us to market and sell comic books to new readers, unquote, they said. Well, if he holds true to the original source material, then yes, there could be a rebound coming. If they stay true to the original source material and draw people in and not continue to bleep around with it. So he added, quote, these are people who are interested in his movies, his TV shows, and if they want to take a deep dive into these characters, he directs them to the comic books, unquote. The Hollywood Reporter noted Lee didn't give any numbers or name drop any titles, with one exception, but he said, quote, certain titles have seen double or triple digit growth in sales since the duo took charge. So he's not being too specific. He's just throwing stuff out there. Makes me want. I mean, if there was such, I mean, it does kind of beg the question. If there was such growth, you'd be proud of it to the point to where you'd want to shout it from the rooftops. You'd want to shout it from the mountains. You want to be like Rocky after he ran up that mountain in Russia, during his training session to take on, Ivan Drago in the Rocky film, where he goes, Drago! Drago! The Authority was mentioned as one book Gunn has drummed up interest in with his announcement of a big screen adaptation in development. Though it's added, the Authority wasn't in print when Gunn revealed his plans. The Hollywood Reporter didn't mention or allude to the idea that sales of back issues could be key to any potential uptick in Authority sales, as they are with other comics. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this article, it's been reported that a lot of the sales numbers that are coming in are more for back issues and reprints than for the newer material, because people don't like the newer material. They don't like the preachy, self-grandiosing, stuff, Back issues have experienced greater movement than new comics in recent years. That wasn't on Lee's mind at Comic-Con. Quote, At the end, of course not, because Lee. I think deep down, Lee probably wants to push more of the newer stuff. He's likely kind of a he may not be as over the top as some people are. But my guess is he's kind of a more of an SJW than people realize. Um, Quote, at the end of the day, there's the business of DC, and then there's the content engine that creates all the DC content, from to animation and movies and stuff like that. Unquote. He explained. And we do know on the cartoon side of it, we do know that they've been getting a lot of backlash for that too, particularly with My Adventures with Superman. Right? We've been talking about a lot about that. We even talked a little bit about it yesterday with their, I guess, the animators' take on Mr. Mix Yes Spitlick, right? Quote, but it's that connection between comics and media that we're celebrating here, in brackets, at San Diego Comic Con, unquote. Lee continued. Quote, the trend has been for exhibitors to have exclusive, in brackets, products as a way to drive fans to their booths, and also underwriting the cost of being at a show like this. But it's also a great way to stoke fandom, unquote. He went on to explain that, quote, people go online, they go to Discord channels, they talk about what they scored at Comic Con. They wait, in brackets, in long lines to go into Hall H or to meet creators and celebrities. And they also wait in long lines to buy exclusive merchandise, unquote. DC is exploring new opportunities with these long, patient lines. If you say so. And there's a panel with Superman and Blue Beetle right there. The Eclipso returns, or next, Eclipso returns. The company is bridging the gap between digital and physical media with new trading cards called Hero, quote unquote, or Pro, I guess. Um, Quote, physical superhero trading cards have been around for decades. This is just a really elegant hybridization of that business into the digital space, not leaving behind the physical collectors, unquote, Lee explained. Quote, it gives you the option of trading one or the other or both, unquote. DC is also trying to drum up excitement with their new Dawn of DC initiative, in which it's another reboot that a lot of people are panning. I think people are just tired of all the constant reboots. Which the Hollywood Reporter claims will be different from the New 52 and Rebirth. The occurrence of Future State and Dark Crisis ignored. They perceive Dawn as, quote, a more measured approach, unquote, since the relaunch is being told over a year as opposed to a small number of weeks or months. Still, Lee seems like he and DC are learning from their mistakes with previous relaunches, and in the 90s, quote, first issues are highly collectible, as you know, but if you have too many in one month, you suck up all the dollars that are in the marketplace, which is great if you get them all, but there are limits to people's budgets, unquote, he noted. He is said to be happy with the sales of Superman books titles going into second printings, and even Doom Patrol. Currently, we're super excited about the results, and we haven't even gotten to the Batman piece of it yet, unquote. Lee reportedly glowed. We also haven't gotten to the releases of the DCU pieces yet, so we shall see where DC is in 2025. Years from now. Oh, there we go with that one. Have anybody here? Nope. As we said, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I am going to need to step away here for a moment. All right, here's the last article we're going to go through now. Of course, before I do this, as I said, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. So I'm going to put some music on, go do something real quick, and then I'll be right back. Alrighty then. So we're back. So let's get into this article here. A minute. All right, the last article we're going to do tonight here, and then we'll of course do the wrestling wrap up and So Dark Horse Comics writer Christoph Bogach says you can't have a career in mainstream comics and be part of Comics Day. Article by John F. Trent, published a week ago, August 16th, which is about a week ago. Dark Horse Comics writer Christoph Bogach recently declared that comic book writers and artists cannot have a career in mainstream comics and be part of Comics Day. Bogach, who saw his Under Kingdom graphic novel get published at Dark Horse Comics in April, took to Twitter where he wrote, quote, "It worries me how many new creators think they can be part of Comicsgate and still have a career in mainstream comics. You can't. Simple as that." I mean, I guess I can see his point as many of these corporate comic companies, are trying to push out their garbage and of course, one of the things we were talking about, I think, last night as well, was how, a lot of the old guard was getting kind of swept out for these newer people who are driving these agendas. But Bogach then accused members of Comicsgate of being abusive. Quote, "Other creators and editors aren't going to hire anyone associated with a group responsible abusing them and their coworkers." Yeah, but again, there's another tool for the corporate comics. Probably just mouthing off, doesn't know what he's talking about. It's kind of funny how a lot of people in Comicsgate, including EVS, Graham Nolan, John Malin, Mike Barron, a lot of these people are actually doing pretty well for themselves without mainstream comics. So, if you want to gatekeep and keep people out, Mr. Bogach, fine. They'll go out. They'll go to fund my comic. They'll fund their comics, and they will succeed despite your stupidity. In a subsequent tweet, he added, quote, "This is real, literal advice I had to give an indie creator who was, in small quotes, surprised to hear Comicsgate was controversial. Don't act dumb. It's bleeping obvious what the movement is about." Well, it is obvious, but not in the way you're thinking. Obvious, it's about not pushing agendas, not bowing down to corporate greed. It's about getting out there and publishing stories that people actually want to read instead of publishing, instead of preaching at people or taking the attitude, well, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. He concluded, quote, "No one is going to buy that you simply didn't know," unquote. Prominent Comicsgate figure Ethan Van Sciver responded to Bogach's tweets, writing, quote, "It's about protesting political discrimination in comics. If you didn't know, now you do. Hashtag Comicsgate," unquote. While Van Sciver responded to Bogach's assertion that Comicsgate was about being abusive and set the record straight on that accord, Bogach's assertion about not having a career in "quote unquote" mainstream comics if you are part of Comicsgate might be accurate, especially if you assume quote mainstream comics unquote means Marvel Comics, DC, Image Comics, Dark Horse, etc. Former DC Comics artist Mike S. Miller revealed to Bounding into Comics that DC does indeed have a blacklist. Quote, they don't publicize this stuff. They try to go around saying there's no such thing as a blacklist. But I talked to Brian Augustine because he was my editor at the time. Wonder if he's related to Augustine on this site. Brian Augustine's related to the Augustine from Bounding in the Comics here. Of course, it's Trent who's writing this article on it, Trent. But he told me point blank, I think it's read point black, but I think he meant point blank. He's like, in small quotes, oh yeah, there's a blacklist. The editors love putting people on the blacklist at DC, unquote. Back in 2018, Miller was initially banned from the Grand Rapids Comic Con after the convention announced their banning of Miller. Marvel artist after the convention announced their banning of Miller, Marvel artist Mike Deodato offered praise for taking such action. He wrote on Twitter, quote, a big round of applause to Grand Rapids Comic Con for excreting out Mike S. Miller from our convention. Oh, how lovely. Here is the letter they sent to the creature in question. Oh boy, yeah. Deodato, who I have not heard of before this, by the way, would later encourage his followers to attend the convention because it was quote unquote Comicsgate free. He tweeted, quote, support this Comic Con. They are Comicsgate free. Grand Rapids Comic Con 2018 promo, unquote. And I wonder how many people actually did the opposite. Former DC and Marvel writer Chuck Dixon also told Bounding into Comics in 2018 that these comic book publishing companies blacklist individuals for their quote personal, religious, or political beliefs, unquote. He said, quote, a lot of great talent is either unemployed or underemployed because of either their personal religious or political beliefs. Their personal beliefs, the blacklist, are very real, and a lot of careers have been damaged. And as bad as this kind of discrimination is, the effect of silencing other creators who fear for their livelihoods is even more far reaching. It's intimidation, pure and simple, a radical core of far left editors and publishers forcing their ideologies on the creative community as well as the readership. And that's why you have places like Fund My Comic. If you are an indie comic creator and you don't want to bow down to these far left editors, you don't want to get down on your knees and pucker up to their backsides, then what you do is you go out on your own. You publish through, you crowdfund through places like Fund My Comic, where all they want you to do is succeed. Dixon elaborated, quote, most damaging in the long term is the hiring of staff and assigning of freelancers based on their political beliefs rather than any kind of merit. The result is the current crop of frankly mediocre efforts from companies that used to be the industry leaders. It's hard to find even a competently written and drawn comic, let alone anything that could be called exemplary examples of the medium, unquote. More recently, former Marvel comic artist Joe Bennett, who worked on Immortal Hulk with writer Al Ewing and was slated to work on Marvel's Timeless project, was blacklisted by Marvel Comics after a 2017 political cartoon he created in favor of Brazilian politician Jair Bolsonaro began making the rounds on social media in 2021. A Marvel spokesman informed Games Radar Bennett was blacklisted, telling the outlet he would not be working on, quote, any future Marvel projects, unquote. Um, yeah, and I do know that Joe recently, I guess Chuck Dixon brought him in on some projects recently. It's very clear these companies do indeed blacklist individuals for their religious and political beliefs. So it's not hard to imagine they would blacklist people for being Comicsgate, especially given the movement is about protesting political discrimination in comics, as Ethan Van Sciver pointed out. Mm-hmm. It's basically about, instead of pushing agendas, it's about putting out good stories and good comics. You know, it's kind of funny how they're talking about the religious discrimination here too, because for those who, of course, are here on Fridays with me and my guest, we've been talking about a lot. One of the things we've been talking a lot about back in the golden age there was a huge chunk of the creators in the comic industries back in the late 30s there were Jewish, which is a religion. Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, Will Eisner, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. A lot of these great creators, Georgie, I don't know if Georgie Brenner was Jewish or not, but a lot of these great creators, and we're talking about, and we talked a lot about how they were hoping to try to get America into World War II a lot sooner than it did get into. But it's kind of funny how they talk about religious discrimination because you know, you could argue the argument that could be made that the comic book industry was founded by a bunch of Jewish people, founded by you know by people who practiced the religion of Judaism. So that's kind of the, I guess, the ironic thing of all this when they're talking about religious discrimination. What do you make of Christoph Bogach's appearing to confirm a Comicsgate blacklist exists among a number of the more prominent American comic book publishing companies? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's something that's really that new because I think everybody's known about it for the last 4 or 5 years, right? 6 years. Um, so with that, let's see. So we're down to 49 minutes here. So we're gonna do wrestling wrap up real quick. We're gonna try to get through the rest of the stuff as quickly as we can here. Okay, so as I did mention earlier, and we will probably talking a little bit more about this tomorrow as well. After giving the news outlets a chance to get some more stories on it and get more of the details out. But apparently, as I mentioned earlier, Terry Funk passed away today at the age of 79. So just wait on more details before we can talk more about that. On the WWE news front, so they are preparing for the return of Kairi Sane to the company. She is due back with the WWE in November of this year, after having been with Stardom for a while. So a lot of fans will be looking forward to that. And also, as we come into this weekend's big pay-per-views, of course, I'll talk more about the pay-per-views tomorrow as well. You know, in AEW news, of course, we got All In coming up on Sunday from Wembley Stadium, in which now apparently the AEW World Tag Team Championship still is on the line, as far as we know. At least according to Tony Khan saying, I guess they still are going to have it. So I'm guessing Cash will be able to go to England. There was talk that he may not be able to go because of, the situation of him getting arrested on the aggravated assault charge with a weapon. Somebody who is not slated to be there, who may end up missing the event, will be Ray Fenix. Ray Fenix is right now scheduled to be part of the Stadium Stampede match, but apparently, because of the fact he's trying to establish residency here in the United States, he may not be able to go for some reason. I don't know the details. I'll probably talk more about it later, but with all that, on tonight's Dynamite, the main event is going to be, and I'll of course be going over the results tomorrow. On tonight's Dynamite, Aussie Open will be defending the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships against the Hardy Boys. Now I'm gathering that the winner of that match, of course, will most likely then be, because there's already signed for 0 Hour at All In that Aussie Open would be defending the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles against Adam Cole and MJF prior to their match later on the main event for Cole to go up against MJF for the AEW World title. You also will have Ruby Soho taking on Sky Blue in a setup in Mogul Embassy's AR Fox and Swerve Strickland will be taking on Darby Allin and Nick Wayne in a prelude to the coffin tag match between these three of these individuals and Sting, of course. And then Jon Moxley will be taking on Ray Fenix, the aforementioned Ray Fenix. So, and this is all happening at the Gas South Arena tonight. So with that, now that we've got all that out of the way, now we're going to go ahead and start to wind down here and go, today being Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. Let's take a look back this day in each history. History! So first off, we're going to go back 70 years ago today. And on this date, 70 years ago today, Ben Sharp, I believe the uncle of Iron Mike Sharp, former WWE enhancement talent, Ben Sharp defeats Bobby Managoff for the NWA Hawaii Heavyweight Championship. On this date, 70 years ago today, Ben Sharp defeats Bobby Managoff for the NWA Hawaii Heavyweight Championship on this day. So, anyways, moving ahead now to 1994. And on this date in 1994, which was 29 years ago today. This date in 1994, 29 years ago today. The 75th issue of Archie's Double Digest went on sale from Archie Comics on this date in 1994. It sold for $2.75, was 192 pages. On this date in 1994, 29 years ago today, the 75th issue of Archie's Double Digest went on sale on this date back in 1994. And finally, 20 years ago today, back in 2003 on this date, 20 years ago today, Funky Cops would premiere on the Fox block on Saturday mornings, and Duck Dodgers would premiere on Cartoon Network. So on this date, 20 years ago today, Funky Cops and Duck Dodgers would premiere on Fox Box and Cartoon Network, respectively. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Tomorrow night, we will most likely have... tomorrow night, of course, we'll most likely be doing the Indie Comic Showcase from... if they don't have one out this... Just changing. So anyways, let's see, what was I just thinking now? Yeah, I kind of got distracted there. My bad. But anyways, hope everybody. Oh yeah, now I remember what I was trying to look up. What I wanted to look up real quick. Just checking to see if he has it up yet. Often, Chris will oftentimes post the article, late Wednesday. Yeah, it looks like he does. So we'll be doing that one tomorrow then. We'll be doing Indie Comic Showcase tomorrow. I'll probably talk a little bit more about Terry Funk as well. So, and then on Friday, of course, Apex from Apex Comics will be joining me as we start our coverage of December 1939 in our historical comic retrospect. We'll be looking at books that went on sale from DC Comics back in that day. Primary features we'll probably be looking at will be Superman, Hawkman, and Sandman. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.